Hello, my dear students. Today we are going to start with our new lesson, that is chapter number 15, our environment. This is very short and very easy lesson. So let's start it. The first concept is environment. We have heard the word environment. It is often being used on the television, in newspapers, and by peoples around us. We also use this word regarding different aspects such as healthy environment, environmental issue, etc. So what is environment? Environment means everything which surrounds us. So environment is our surrounding, and we know in our surrounding there are different things such as it includes living things, we can call it as a biotic things, and non-living things we can call it as abiotic things. Biotic components are all living organisms, for example plants, animals, microbes, and abiotic components means air, water, soil, temperature, etc. Environment of an organism affects the life and development of an organism in its natural habitat. So environment plays very important role in the development and in the life of that organism. For example, environment of desert region is different, and so the life of organisms in the desert is different. Their way of development is different, and the environment in polar region or in for tropical region is different, and so we can see the plants and animals present in that particular region is different, their way of development is different, their life is different. So environment plays very important role in the life of each and every living organism. The word environment is derived from French word environ. This environ means surrounding, and our surrounding includes biotic and abiotic factors. So we can also define environment as sum total of all external conditions and influences that affect life and development of an organism. So simply environment is the sum total of all external conditions, their influence, and how they affect the life and development of organism. So here also we are having one definition such as it is a sum total of all living and non-living elements, their effects which influence human life. So this is environment. Now we will learn about different components of environment and their interaction and impact on life. First component is ecosystem. In the environment, all the living organisms such as plants, animals, microorganisms and human beings, as well as non-living components such as air, water, soil, it interacts with each other and maintain the balance of nature. So in environment all these two components are present, but these two components are interacting with each other, they are interdependent on each other, and so all the interacting organisms in an area together with the non-living constituent of environment forms an ecosystem. So what is ecosystem? It is a system formed by interactions between biotic and abiotic components of the environment. There are two types of ecosystem: natural ecosystem and artificial or man-made ecosystem. Natural ecosystem is the ecosystem which exists in nature on its own, which is natural, and man-made ecosystem or artificial, or we can also call it as anthropogenic ecosystem, means it is man-made, it is formed by the human beings and managed by the human beings. See, in this diagram we can see different type of ecosystem. Man-made means example we can take crop field, aquarium, garden, which is formed by human being and managed by human beings. Natural ecosystem Now, based on habitat, natural ecosystem is further divided as terrestrial ecosystem and aquatic ecosystem. See, natural ecosystem means the ecosystem which exists in nature on its own, and if that natural ecosystem is present on land, then that is called as terrestrial ecosystem. If it is present in water, then it is called as aquatic ecosystem. Terrestrial ecosystems are again of different types, such as forest ecosystem, grassland ecosystem, desert ecosystem. Then aquatic ecosystem is of two types: freshwater ecosystem, for example ecosystem in river, lake, pond, pool, etc. And marine ecosystem means the ecosystem which we can see in saline water, such as in the oceans and seas. Artificial or man-made ecosystem, we can take example of garden. You will find different plants, trees, flowers, fruits and animals, like birds, insect in the garden. All these interact with each other, and their growth, reproduction, development get affected by abiotic components present in that garden. And so garden is an ecosystem. But as it is made and managed by human being, it is called as artificial ecosystem. Now we'll discuss about the components of ecosystem. As we know that ecosystem is having two basic components, that is abiotic components, which includes all non-living things such as air, water, land, light, temperature, etc. And biotic components means all sort of living organisms, all sort of living things such as plants, animals, bacteria, fungi, human beings, etc. On the basis of nutrition, these biotic components are further divided into producers, consumers and decomposers. Now see, what is producers? Organisms which can make their food by their own with the help of sunlight, with the help of chlorophyll and by the process of photosynthesis are called as producers. Means the organisms which can make organic compound like sugar, starch from inorganic substances using solar energy in the presence of chlorophyll by the process of photosynthesis are called producers. Simply we can say that all green plants, blue-green algae are the producers of an ecosystem. Next component is consumers. See, the consumers are the organisms which depends on producers directly or indirectly for their food need. They are organisms which consume other organisms and their products as food. All animals are the consumers. Consumers can be classified as herbivores, carnivores, omnivores and parasites. Now herbivores means plant eaters. These are the organisms which get food by eating producers, by eating plants. We can take examples such as goat, deer, cow, grasshopper, etc. Carnivores. These are organisms which consume other animals. Therefore, carnivores feed on flesh of herbivores. We can also call them as flesh eaters. These are called as primary carnivores, or also we can call them as second order consumers. First order consumer is producers, second order consumer is carnivores. For example, cat, frog, fish, etc. The animals which feed on primary carnivores are called as second order carnivores, or we can also call them as a third order consumer. See, first order consumer is producer, second order consumer is primary carnivores and third order consumer is the secondary carnivores. We can take example as owl, tiger. These are the secondary carnivores. Carnivores which are not preyed or eaten upon further are called as top carnivores. For example, lion, eagle, all these are the top carnivores. Next is omnivores. These are the organisms which eats both plants and animals. So the organisms like human being is the omnivores, because we can eat plants and their products also and animals also as our food. For example, we can take example of omnivores as human being, cockroach, bear, etc. Next is parasites. Parasites are the organisms which live in or on the body of host and take food from it. Here, host is other living organism which get harmed. Example of parasite is lice, roundworm, coscuta, etc. And next is decomposers. So next component of ecosystem is decomposers. It is most important component. See, decomposers are the organisms which decompose the dead plants and animals and waste of organism. Microorganisms are the decomposers as they break down the complex organic substances into simple inorganic form. Those simple inorganic form goes into the soil and again used up by the plants, and so in this way these organisms help in replenishment of natural resources. They help to add minerals, essential components in the soil, and so they help in the replenishment of natural resources. These are also known as saprophytes as they feed on dead and decaying organic matter, so they are also called as saprophytes or reducers. Decomposers help us in decomposing waste and to keep our environment clean. So they are helping us to keep our environment clean. They are helping us to decompose the waste, to reduce the waste, and so also called as reducers. They release minerals, raw materials trapped in the organic matter, and these are picked up by plants and also and again it is used for development of plant for the plants, and it comes into the food chain and used by all living organisms. It also helps to maintain the soil fertility as it is adding nutrients, it is adding different essential minerals in the soil, so it increases the soil fertility, and so decomposers plays very important role in the ecosystem. It is the important component of ecosystem. Next is food chain. See, living organisms of an ecosystem depends on each other for their food requirement. For example, the plants, they are depend on the inorganic substances such as oxygen, carbon dioxide, water, sunlight for their food, to prepare their food. Then herbivores depend on the plant as plant is their food. Then carnivores eat the herbivores and fulfill their food need. Means all the living organisms of an ecosystem depends on each other for their food requirement and forms a series of organisms in which one organism eats another as food and forms a chain known as food chain. So what is food chain? It is a series of organisms in which each organism depends on the next as a source of food. We can see here example, we are having three food chains here. A is the food chain in forest, B is food chain in grassland, and C is food chain in pond. Here in first one we can see these are the plants. Plants are eaten by deer and deer is eaten by tiger. So it is a food chain. Now we'll see significance of food chains. The study of food chains help in understanding food relationship and interactions among the various organisms in an ecosystem. So due to the study of food chain, we can come to know about the interaction, interdependencies among different organisms in the ecosystem. The food chains transfer energy and materials between various living components of ecosystem. So due to study of food chain, we can come to know about how energy get transferred between different living organisms, and transfer of material also. Next is trophic level. In a food chain, various steps are there where transfer of energy takes place, and such steps or level is called as trophic level. So we know there are different levels. Producers are there, consumers are there. In consumers we can see primary consumer, secondary consumer, tertiary consumer. So each step of the food chain is known as trophic level. So in every food chain, the producers or autotrophs are the first trophic level because they use solar energy and prepare their food by the process of photosynthesis, and also provide food for heterotrophs or the consumers. So in every food chain, producers forms the first trophic level. The herbivores or primary consumers are the second trophic level, for example cow, deer, grasshopper. Small carnivores or secondary consumers at the third trophic level, and large carnivores or tertiary consumers forms the fourth trophic level. Students, we know that food we eat acts as a fuel to provide us energy. As we have studied, autotrophs capture energy present in the sunlight and convert it into chemical energy, converts it into glucose, into starch. This energy supports all living world. So that energy they utilize for their growth, for their life processes. And when the plants are eaten by different organisms, then by herbivores, and herbivores are eaten by carnivores, then that energy supports to all living world. From autotrophs, energy goes to the heterotrophs, and then when heterotrophs become dead, then that energy goes to the decomposers. During this transfer of energy, some energy is lost in the form of heat, and some is utilized for the life processes of all these organisms. Flow of energy in a food chain is unidirectional. Uni means one, direction. So the flow of energy takes place only in one direction, that is from energy flows from producer to consumers. Energy from plants do not revert back to sun or from consumers to the producers, and so we can say the flow of energy is unidirectional. It always flow from producer to consumer. Green plants capture about 1% of sun's energy and convert it into food energy. When green plants are eaten by primary consumers, large amount of energy is lost as heat to the environment. Some energy is used for different life processes such as digestion, growth, reproduction, and only 10% of energy is transferred to the next trophic level, and 90% is used in the life processes. So there is only 10% energy available for the next trophic level. So whenever plants produce their food, they produce energy. That energy is utilized for their different life processes, and some energy is lost in the form of heat to the environment, and only 10% energy is passed from producers to the herbivores or to the consumers. There is gradual decrease in amount of energy from one trophic level to next trophic level in food chain. So as the trophic level increases, energy, transfer of energy decreases. The amount of energy which get transferred from one trophic to another trophic level, it get decreases. We will discuss about the 10% law. What this law state? that the energy available at each successive tropic level is 10% of previous level. So only 10% of energy is transferred to the next tropic level, while 90% of energy is used by present tropic level in its life processes. So according to this law, when energy transfer takes place from one tropic level to another, there is only 10% energy transfer is there. So from plants only 10% energy goes to the primary consumer. From primary consumers only 10% energy goes to the secondary consumer, and then 10% goes to the tertiary consumer. Here we can see in this diagram energy flow in each tropic level. For example, if plants are having 1000 kilojoule energy, then when plants are eaten by herbivores or primary consumers, only 10% of 1000, that is 100 kilojoule energy goes to the herbivores. When herbivores are eaten by carnivores, then 10%, that is 10 kilojoule goes to the carnivores, and when carnivores or the secondary consumers are eaten by tertiary consumer, only 1 kilojoule energy get transferred to the tertiary consumers. Means we can see that there is gradual decrease in energy takes place as tropic level increases. And so in each food chain, the maximum tropic levels, or each food chain contains 3 to 4 tropic levels, not more than that, due to this gradual decrease in energy. Next is food web. Food web is a graphical representation of who eats whom in an ecosystem. See, the individuals involved in one food chain are linked with food chains of other ecosystem and forms a complex network which termed as food web. So here we can see that there are different organisms of different food chain, and that organisms are linked to another food chain also. Here we can see this frog is the part of grassland food chain of grassland ecosystem, and this frog is also eaten by this bird which is part of aquatic ecosystem also. Again, there are many animals which are part of more than one food chain, and by that they form a network of food chain, and that network of food chain is called as food web. So in nature, large numbers of food chains are interconnected and forms a food web. Another interesting aspect of food chain is biomagnification, or we can also call it as biological magnification. The increase in concentration of harmful chemical substances like pesticides in the body of living organism at each tropic level of food chain is called biological magnification. See, we learn in class 9 about water pollution. One of the reason of it is pesticides and other chemicals which are released from different industries, and pesticides from agricultural runoff. These chemicals are washed down into soil or water bodies. From soil, these are absorbed by plants along with water and minerals. And from water bodies, it enters in the aquatic food chain through aquatic animals. This is how these chemicals and pesticides enters in the food chain. As these chemicals are not degradable, it cannot be degraded. These get accumulated in each tropic level. As tropic level increases, the concentration of these toxic substances, these chemicals and pesticide is also increases. And this accumulation of pesticides or chemical is known as bioaccumulation. So as tropic level increases, bioaccumulation takes place, and accumulation of toxic substances also increases. And the progressive increase in the concentration of non-biodegradable substances in organism at each tropic level is known as biomagnification. And so this progressive increase in the amount in the concentration of chemicals and pesticide is known as biomagnification. And Maximum concentration of such chemicals get accumulated in human bodies as human occupy the top level of any food chain. As we are on the top of every food chain, so the maximum concentration of these toxic substances get accumulated in human body, and that's why we have to face different diseases. Nowadays, our food grains, vegetables, fruits, even meat contains a varying amount of pesticidal residue, and it affects our health. Here is one example of DDT. It is a pesticide. So, if 10 ppm DDT is present in the grass is the first trophic level, then when that grass is eaten by deer, its concentration goes to the 200 ppm, and when it is eaten by lion, then its concentration increases to 5000 ppm. Means we can see that gradual increase in the toxic substances takes place with each trophic level, and this is known as biomagnification. Students, the waste materials produced by various activities of man and animals are poisonous to some extent, and it can be divided into two main groups. One is biodegradable waste and another one is non-biodegradable waste. Bio means living, and degrade means to decompose. So the waste which can be decomposed by the living organisms such as microbes, then that is called as biodegradable waste. Non-biodegradable waste means which cannot be decomposed easily by the action of decomposers. See, we'll discuss about biodegradable waste. The substances that are broken down by biological processes are said to be biodegradable. These substances are decomposed through the action of fungi, bacteria, and other living organisms. With this, temperature and sunlight also plays an important role in decomposition of biodegradable substances. For example, food waste, trees, leaves, urine, fecal matter, sewage, agricultural residue, all these are the examples of biodegradable waste. Another type of waste is non-biodegradable waste. Substances that are not broken down by biological processes. These substances may be in solid, liquid or gaseous forms. So these substances are inert and simply persist in environment, means they remain for long time in the environment, they pollute the environment and harm the various members of our ecosystem, and so this type of waste is harmful to the environment. This includes DDT, that is dichloro-diphenyl trichloroethane. It is a pesticide. Insecticides, pesticides, mercury, lead, arsenical, polythene, all these are radioactive waste, all these are the non-biodegradable waste. It persists in nature, in remain in the environment for years and years and shows harmful effect on abiotic and biotic components also. These non-biodegradable waste are major pollutants of the environment. Now we'll see harmful effect of biodegradable and non-biodegradable substances. The waste destroys natural beauty and our surrounding become dirty. If there will be heaps of waste or the waste is present everywhere, then the beauty of nature become destroys. Also, it makes that surrounding dirty. Decomposition of these waste results in production of foul smell which spreads to the surrounding area. During decomposition of biodegradable waste, the bad odor is spread all over that area, and also it creates the suitable environment for the rodents, for the mosquitoes. These waste may also block the drains, creating pools of waste and which become breeding sites of mosquitoes, and it can carry different diseases like malaria, dengue. So different epidemic diseases can be spread because of waste. And if non biodegradable waste will be there, then it will decrease the soil fertility, it will remain there for years and years, and the harmful substances from those non biodegradable waste get percolate into the groundwater table or get mixed with the surface water, and it will affect to the soil, it will affect to the water, and also to the surrounding and living organisms also. Here there is difference between biodegradable waste and non-biodegradable waste. See, we'll discuss about biodegradable waste. The waste that are broken down naturally by microbial action is called as biodegradable waste. Biodegradation forms harmless and non-poisonous products. After biodegradation, the complex organic matter get converts into simple inorganic form, and that simple inorganic substance is mixed into the soil or in water and captured by producers. So there is no harmful poisonous product in after the decomposition of biodegradable waste. They release raw materials back to nature. It helps in the replenishment of natural resources. They pollute the environment only when they are produced in quantity beyond the capacity of environment to degrade them. Biodegradable waste cannot produce harmful or poisonous product, but if the quantity or the amount of waste is more, then during its decomposition it can create the environmental problems such as bad odor or the breeding ground for the mosquitoes, rodents, etc. Bioconcentration does not occur, so biological magnification does not take place in the biodegradable waste. As it is degradable, it can be decomposed. Recycling is possible both naturally or through human efforts. We can recycle biodegradable waste, we can convert it into the compost. Next is non-biodegradable waste. The waste that are not broken down by microbes is called as non-biodegradable waste. Then in non-biodegradable waste, no such action is possible. Means what? It cannot form harmless or non-poisonous product. There are harmful effects of non-biodegradable waste, such as it will persist in nature, it will release heavy metals or toxic substances in the nature. They do not release raw materials, but due to the environmental effects, as I told, different chemicals get released from the e-waste, from the toxic chemicals, and it shows different effects such as bioaccumulation or the contamination of water due to heavy metals, etc. Non-biodegradable waste pollute environment even in small quantity, as it is persisting waste, as it remains for longer time in the environment. Bioconcentration or biomagnification occurs when waste enters food chain. Recycling is possible only by human efforts. So if we will recycle it, if we will recycle plastic, or if we will recycle different e-waste, then it is possible, but naturally it cannot be recycled. Students, we learn about environment and its components. Environment plays an important role in our life. Changes in environment affect us, and our activities change the environment around us. We learned in previous class how our activities pollute the environment. This leads to the slow degradation of environment that give rise to environmental problems. Now we will discuss two environmental problems, that is depletion of ozone layer and waste disposal. So start with ozone depletion. Ozone is a molecule formed by 3 atoms of oxygen having formula O3. It is formed as a result of photochemical reaction. Photo means light. So in higher atmosphere, that is in stratosphere, due to UV radiations, due to solar radiations, the molecular oxygen O2 splits into atomic oxygen. We can see in this reaction. This atomic oxygen then again combine with the molecular oxygen. So O combines with O2 and forms O3, that is ozone molecule. As we know, oxygen is essential for life, but ozone is a deadly poison in troposphere. But in stratosphere, it plays an essential function. It acts as a protective blanket around Earth and absorbs most of harmful UV radiations of the sun. And so it is called as Earth's protective umbrella. And thus it protects the living organisms from the harmful UV radiations. It protects our life from different health hazards like skin cancer, cataract in eyes, weak immune system, destruction of plants, etc. The amount of ozone in atmosphere begins to drop sharply in 1980s. The decline of ozone layer is called ozone depletion. Ozone layer depletion was first discovered in 1985 and was termed as ozone hole. Ozone depletion takes place due to excessive use of CFCs, that is chlorofluorocarbon. It is a synthetic chemical. Synthetic means man-made chemical which remains inert. Inert means unreactive in lower atmosphere, but it becomes reactive in stratosphere due to UV radiation. So these CFCs are considered responsible for the ozone depletion. In lower atmosphere it remains inert, non-reactive. It does not react with any gases present in atmosphere, but as it reach in stratosphere it become reactive due to UV radiations. These CFCs are used as refrigerants and also in fire extinguishers. These CFCs cause ozone depletion in stratosphere. In stratosphere, CFCs decompose to form chlorine atom, and a single chlorine atom can destroy 1 lakh ozone molecules. It forms a chain reaction, and so from CFCs, once the chlorine molecule is formed, chlorine radical is formed, that chlorine radical decomposes ozone molecule, and this is a chain reaction. So one chlorine can destroy 1 lakh ozone molecule. In 1987, the UNEP, United Nations Environment Program, did an excellent job in forging an agreement to freeze CFC production at 1986 levels. It is known as Montreal Protocol on the substances that deplete ozone. It is an international treaty for protect ozone, and it came in force in 1989. It was designed to stop production and import of ozone depleting substances. Next environmental problem is garbage disposal. In our daily activities, we generate a lot of material as a waste. Also, due to industrialization and urbanization, demand of consumer goods have created major problem of waste accumulation and disposal. The waste disposal should be done in a scientific way. It should be disposed in a proper way. Method to dispose waste depends on nature of waste. Here are some waste disposal methods. First one is open dumping. It is a conventional method in which solid waste dumped in selected areas of a town, but it causes pollution. As we are dumping waste in open ground or in open area, it gives rise to different disease causing rodents, microorganisms or insects. It can spread different epidemic diseases, bad odor, and also it destroys the beauty of nature. Next one is landfillings. Waste are dumped in low living area and are compacted by rolling with bulldozers. Next is composting. Organic waste are filled into compost pit. It is then covered with thin layer of soil. After about 3 months, that waste get converted into organic manure. We can use that organic manure in our garden or for as a manure for the agricultural field. Next is incineration. Incineration is burning of waste on high temperature to form ash. So in incineration we are burning waste at very high temperature and convert it into ash. This process is carried out in an incinerator. Incineration is used to destroy household waste, chemical and biological waste. It is specially used for the biomedical waste, which can be infectious and hazardous. Next strategy of waste disposal is 3 R's. 3 R's means 3 R of waste management, that is reduce, reuse and recycle. These 3 R help to conserve natural resources, landfill space and energy. Also it saves money. First R is reduce. Reduce means try to reduce the waste. Don't throw things as a waste. Think once about its any other use or any other purpose, or give that thing to any needy person. So instead of throwing things as a waste, we can think about its another purpose or its any other use. Second R is reuse. A very simple conventional technique of using an item again and again. For example, paper can be reused for making envelopes or paper bags. Also, packaging materials can be used again and again. The containers of food can be used for storing grocery items. So, this is the reuse, that we can use items again and again instead of throwing it. And last one is recycling. The solid waste is broken down into its constituent simpler materials. These materials are then used to make new items. We can recycle non-biodegradable solid waste like plastic, metal, glass, etc. Recycling of paper, plastic, metal, glass help to reduce load on natural resources. It will help to conserve nature also, and also it will help to manage waste disposal also. So we can carry out solid waste management also, and we can help our environment, our natural resources also. So this is all about lesson number 15, that is our environment. Hope you understood all the topics, all the points. Thank you and have a nice day.